Welcome to the N36 application webinar for the 2019 application season. My name is Ainsleigh Burelle, and I'm the Marketing Associate here at Next Canada. So welcome and thanks for tuning in. This hour is really supposed to be an informative session where you get to hear from myself as well as some of our freshly minted alumni around their program experience, the application process for the program, and a bit about what you can expect as a potential applicant. So we are streaming here live from our new Next Canada headquarters in downtown Toronto with the help of our friends at Newscreen. So thanks to them for powering this hour. And the important thing to note is that you can actually tune in on Facebook Live and ask your questions in real time. So you can do that over Facebook or over Twitter. Our handle is @Next36, and you can use the hashtag N36apply. We'll be going through some pre-planned material that we have, and then we'll also be answering your questions towards the end as well. So be sure to do that. You can also find the FAQs on our website if you have any further questions about the program mechanics or application process as well. And yeah, so it's also important to note that applications for 2019 are currently open. The deadline this year is October 16th, so you have some time. We'll also be doing a national campus tour where we'll be traveling to universities, startup hubs across the country from Vancouver to Halifax. So please do keep an eye on our website for upcoming events that you can attend, come out and meet some of our alumni, as well as ask your questions about the program. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you out at some of those events this fall. So before I introduce you to our alumni, for those of you who have never heard of the Next36 program, we are one of the first programs launched by Next Canada. Next Canada is a national nonprofit organization with the overarching goal and mission to advance Canadian prosperity and wealth through high-impact entrepreneurship. We also run two other programs called the Next Founders and the Next AI, but today we'll be focusing on the Next36. So back when we launched in 2010, the four co-founders of the organization wanted to launch a program that would focus on a very small number of really high potential entrepreneurs. And they built a program to essentially support them through different methods like founder development, mentorship, and also providing capital and other resources in order to make them kind of the strongest possible entrepreneurs that they could be. And so, yeah, so we'll be going into a little bit more about that program today. First, we'll just talk a bit about the application process and eligibility. So the program is open to undergraduates and recent grads from across Canada. We are program agnostic, is what we like to say. So regardless of university or college or academic background, we hope that you'll apply and learn through the program. The application process can be found on our website as of today, and there's two stages to that process. So the first half is a written portion where you'll answer some short form questions, and that is followed by a Kira video interview. Kira Talent is one of the Next36 alumni ventures, actually, so it's pretty neat that we get to use them in our application process today. And that is essentially a video interview that tries to mimic the live interview process. So that will be also a part of what you submit as part of your application. And a bit about the program. So Next36 is an 8-month-long, high-end intensity entrepreneurship development program for Canadians. So the three main things that we offer through the program are mentorship. So we will pair each individual Next36er with a dedicated mentor, and they also have access to a host of other advisors, experienced CEOs, and entrepreneurs who are helping them and guiding them throughout the course of the program. We also will offer some seed funding. So up to $80K per team is delivered through our Young Founders Fund. And thirdly, we also have a strong emphasis in the program on founder development, which is actually kind of a mix of academics and actionable business acumen that you can apply directly to the startup that you're building. And so we'll go into that in a little bit more depth in just a little bit. And then along with those three things, it's also kind of access to all of these in-kind resources from various partners like EY and Osler. So a host of resources from our amazing partners there. And then it's also being a part of this phenomenal network of alumni, other entrepreneurs, business leaders, and academics from across Canada. And so that kind of comprises what we offer as part of the program, and we'll go a little bit more in depth into the program timeline and mechanics in just a little bit. But first, I want to turn it over to my panelists and introduce you to some of our alumni. So Mariam, maybe if you want to start and give us a bit of a background on your program, school, what you were doing before the program, and what you've been building over the course of the last few months.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Ainsley. So my name is Mariam. I just graduated from an electrical and computer engineering degree at the University of Calgary, and before the Next 36, I was a student, but I was also working on a couple of my own projects and ventures. And so over the past couple months with the Next 36, I've been working on a startup called AccomoDine, where we try to find a solution for people with food allergies to navigate eating out safely. And so with the founder development portion of the Next 36 program, the mentorship access, and just being a part of a really great group of people, we were able to kind of get a lot of learnings out of this experience. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about it.
My name is Justin. I'm a mechanical engineering graduate from McGill University. I just graduated this past May as well. Before Next, I was involved. I'd completed 6 internships across 5 different companies. Started 2 student businesses, I guess you can call them, and I was really involved in the different student societies at my various schools that I attended. Since in the program, we, my co-founder and I, we started a company called Blaise, and we're building a universal platform that enables demand-responsive public bus services. So you can think of us as like the Uber pool, but for full-size city buses. And we started this back in March, and we're continuing with it after the program. So. Yeah.
Amazing.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nuha. I recently graduated from the University of Toronto. I was at the business program there. So I specialized in accounting, and I did a minor in environmental economics. So before Next, even though I was doing accounting, which is totally unrelated, I was really involved in my entrepreneurship community. So I was president of my Enactus University chapter, where I grew 4 different social ventures throughout my university career, one of which was the founding venture that I brought into Next 36. So I was actually a little bit different. I didn't come to the program and started a new venture. I brought in a venture that I've been working on for a little while. So my business is called EcoPackers, and it's an eco-friendly packaging company that is created by repurposing agricultural byproducts. So things that you find in your farm, we take it and we create packaging materials out of it. So it's been a really, really great experience for us, and I'm continuing on with my venture now.
Great, thanks so much, everyone. And so you heard from a few alumni. You guys have an engineering background, an accounting background, and it's important to note that for people who are thinking about applying to the Next 36, we do look at all different faculties and academic disciplines. So we have a few other folks who are in the program this year from political science, some from business, some from, in the past we've had law students, art students, design students. And so it's important to note that kind of no matter what your academic background is, if you think that, well, I'm not attending business school, so maybe I'm not fit to be an entrepreneur, we say that no matter what your academic background is, if you have the drive to build something and create impact, then we want you in the program. So, and it's also a good chance to mingle with and form relationships with other like-minded individuals from entirely different backgrounds when you are in the program. So that's what we love, is that the cohort is always so diverse. And you guys are solving problems in a range of different industries as well. So that can mean that you're building a tech company, but many times we see companies like EcoPackers where you have a physical product as well. So, yes. And so I just want to highlight as well, part of the application process when you're applying, something to note is that you actually don't need an existing co-founder or even idea to apply into the program. So the way that the application process works is that you can apply if you are anywhere on that spectrum of being just an individual who is entrepreneurial and still looking to nail down their idea and their co-founding team, to being someone like Nuha, where you have an existing idea or venture that you've been working on, perhaps through your campus-linked accelerator or within your entrepreneurial ecosystem, and potentially also co-founders as well that you want to bring into and accelerate through the program. So anywhere on that spectrum, you're eligible to bring that into the program. When you enter the program, the other cool thing is that we put all of the Next 36ers in residence together. So you'll actually be living on campus out of the grad house or wherever at U of T campus. So that kind of bonding and collaboration that happens as part of the cohort is one way that you're potentially able to meet your co-founders. That can also happen at National Selection Weekend, which happens in December. So regardless of where you meet your other co-founders, if you are applying as an individual, there's an opportunity for them to also apply into the program and be a part of the full programming as well. And so I want to just talk a bit about, with you guys, what was that team formation process like? Can you tell us a bit about what stage you were at when you were coming into the program, how you met your co-founders, and what was that process like for you? Yeah, Mariam, maybe if you want to start us off.
Sure. So I actually found out about the program through my friend Jessie, who we had been working together on some entrepreneurial initiatives throughout my university degree. And when we talked about the program, we talked about joining forces and working together. So for the first 4 months, we were working together on a startup called Serialize. So that's the first 4 months of the program. He was an external co-founder. When the summer accelerator part of the program started, I moved into graduate house and I met my co-founder Caitlin for AccomoDine. And what we had done was we joined forces. So Jessie, Caitlin, and I joined forces to start this new venture, AccomoDine, together. It was really a problem that she was facing with her food allergies, and so it was a really clear problem that we could solve together with our combined skills. So team formation was really interesting because we hadn't known each other. So Caitlin and I hadn't known each other before the program, and it was a really good experience getting to know each other as roommates within the program and actually working together.
So for me, it was kind of a similar situation. I didn't know, I didn't have a venture or a co-founding team coming into the program. So I spent the first month or so just going to talking to a lot of the other Next 36ers and also looking for external co-founders. And then eventually I met my co-founder Gavin. We'd both studied mechanical engineering for our whole degree at McGill and hadn't really gotten to know each other that well. And then we met at an entrepreneurship event, and we discovered that we had a lot of very similar interests and similar values in using technology to achieve some sort of positive social and environmental impact. So we met in beginning of February, came up with the idea for Blaise after realizing we had a common interest in solving some of the inefficiencies around public transportation. And he wasn't in the program, but he did come to Toronto, and he lived in grad house, even though he wasn't part of the program. So which was great. Like the program's very accommodating as well, so that we could still live together, even though the fact that he was an external co-founder, and we got to be working side by side the whole summer. So yeah.
So I actually have two co-founders. My first one I met through the entrepreneurship club that I was a part of in my university. And she was working on the business with me while I was still building it, and she was very involved, and I knew we had very similar values when it came to the vision of our company. My third co-founder is interesting because we actually went through a full recruitment process for her myself and my co-founder at that time weren't technically experienced in engineering, and my entire business is engineering based. We wanted to recruit and find the perfect engineer to add to our team. So we did a recruitment process at U of T to find a chemical engineer. So we went through the interviews, we vetted them, and then that's how we actually joined, added the third co-founder to our team.
Amazing. And that third co-founder that you mentioned, have they joined? Did they end up joining the program in a full capacity, or they were more of an external co-founder?
Yeah, so both of my co-founders are external,
Okay.
so not through Next. They're external, but they were still really involved in Next programs,
Okay.
and coming to all of our demo days, prototype days. So it was really great for them to experience the program while not necessarily being a part of the cohort, but they were still very involved.
Good. Okay. And that's a good kind of segue into we'll do a bit of a deeper dive into the mechanics of how the timeline works, right from today, where you can start submitting your application, all the way up until Venture Day, which was a couple of days ago. And that's kind of a good segue into the difference between what a lead Next36 co-founder is and this external co-founder idea. So as of today, you're able to go onto the website and submit your application. One interesting thing about our application process is that it's all done on an individual basis. So you as an individual would fill out the two parts application, and the questions that you're going to be asked are not necessarily around the idea that you want to pursue or a business plan or anything like that, but more around your own individual background. So we're looking for things like your entrepreneurial track record, ways that you've demonstrated your drive and grit and ability to be resilient and overcome challenges. And we're really looking more for those raw ingredients that then once in the program can work on driving their business forward and solving those problems. So the first stage of the application is you would do the written portion, followed by the Kira video interview, and then submit that to our team. We go through the application process throughout October and November, and then in November is when we would send out the initial acceptances to 72 finalists. So those 72 finalists come December. National Selection Weekend this year is, I believe, December 1st to 3rd. So that's when we would fly those 72 finalists from across Canada to Toronto for a full weekend of back-to-back interviews, pretty intensive experiences with some of our mentors and selection committee members, as well as some guest talks by other entrepreneurs and CEOs who are a part of the network. So it's almost like an introduction to kind of the pace and intensity that the program delivers. Through that weekend, we end up selecting 36 lead co-founders. So again, just based on your individual merit and the quality of your application and the way that you've been able to demonstrate yourself as a great candidate over the course of that weekend, we'll select those final 36. From there, post-selection weekend, the teams have roughly 6 weeks, or sorry, the lead co-founders have roughly 6 weeks to nail down who their other co-founders are and what the idea is that they're going to be working on or the problem is that they're going to be solving. So at that point in time, the lead co-founders have the option to either find co-founders if they are looking for co-founders from the other 35. They can also go to any of the other finalists who they met at National Selection Weekend, or they can go through a more formal recruitment process like Nuha did, and they have the chance to really build that team. So towards January, February, there's a second wave of applications where those external co-founders are able to apply for a formal spot in the cohort. So even though we're called the Next36, by the end of all that, the cohort is never really 36 on the dot. From that point forward, the first 4 months of the program, so from January until just the beginning of May, actually all take place in a part-time and remote capacity. So many people who are in the program might be in their 3rd or 4th year of university. And as they're finishing up their school term, they're also participating in the Next36 program part-time. So that could mean doing some of the classwork for some of the classes that start a bit earlier. That could mean working on your MVP or prototype for the next funding pitch round. That could mean a variety of things based on what your venture is and what kind of the milestones are that you've carved out for yourself and for your team. So come May, we have the summer kickoff, which is our first kind of major event of the summer. That's where everyone comes back to Toronto for the official kickoff of the Summer Entrepreneurship Institute. So from May until mid-August is when all of the entrepreneurs from the Next 36 program are full-time in person in Toronto, will move into residence. And the kind of tone for the summer is really set with summer kickoff or prototype day. So that is really the first chance for the ventures to pitch what they've been working on for the last 4 months to our network of mentors, advisors, and a few investors to get feedback on their idea and to adjust their roadmap accordingly. That's also when we begin the very heavy and intensive portion of the program around founder development. So over the course of the summer, we run a full founder development program. One of our initial co-founders and our academic director, Ajay Agrawal, you might know him as the Peter Monk Professor of Entrepreneurship at the University of Toronto. He's also one of the co-founders of the Creative Destruction Lab. And so Ajay has kind of handpicked a stellar group of faculty and entrepreneurs from across North America who come in and deliver a custom curriculum all centered around entrepreneurial development and strategy for the Next 36ers. And we can talk a little bit about that in a minute and hear about some of your favorites and some of the favorite classes and professors. And so that programming is being delivered over the course of the summer, roughly 10 to 20 hours a week of class. And then concurrently, the entrepreneurs are working towards basically building out their venture in their spare time that they have. There are various other demo days and events, networking events, dinners, workshops happening over the course of the summer as well. And all of that really culminates at Venture Day, which was a couple of days ago. And that is kind of the large, almost like a graduation day of the program. So that's when you get to pitch on stage in front of roughly 300 different business leaders, investors, again, mentors, advisors, other entrepreneurs, and members of the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And that is really kind of the wrap up of the program. So I just want to dive a bit deeper into some elements of the program. And one of the big things that we place an emphasis on is mentorship and making sure that the teams have mentors who are not only dedicated to them and their team over the course of the program, but who also tend to have some sort of domain expertise that relates to the problem that the venture is trying to solve. And so, Nuha, since you have the mic, maybe we'll go the other way. And if you want to talk a bit about who your mentor was, give us a bit of background on them and how they were helpful and what was that relationship like for you?
Yeah. So I was assigned a mentor as soon as I started the program through Next, and her name was Valerie Fox. She was a co-founder of DMZ. She also has a lot of experience in design. So initially, I wasn't sure what the connection would be with my business, but ever since our first mentorship chat, I knew it was perfect. And she really, really helped in all aspects of my business, whether it be for connections or just general advice on my pitches. So every time I would do a pitch, I would run it by her. She would give me feedback, or if I had any questions, between one of our chats, she would always be responsive over email or text. So I think the amount of attention that our mentors give us is amazing, and it's a really great part of the program.
Amazing.
Yeah, we were also, well, I was paired with Cindy Fagan from SAP. She's the COO of SAP Canada, and also an excellent matching at first because she's not industry specific to transportation. So I wasn't sure how this was going to work, but she ended up being one of the most valuable parts of being in the program because of her background in sales and operations, which is my co-founder and I were both from an engineering background. So in terms of being able to pitch and sell to transit authorities and all these things that were specific to our business, it actually came in handy quite often. And also in terms of just she's extremely well connected and putting us in touch with the right people. If we want to know a little bit more about this, or we want to potentially start a loyalty program with our business, and then she would just put us in touch with the right person right away. So pretty invaluable connection that we got through our mentor, and she's continuing to mentor and advise us post Next 36. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my team and I were matched with Lauren Epstein of Omer's Ventures. And what's so incredible about that is Lauren has a legal background, which to us, again, so a lot of us didn't know why we were matched with certain mentors, but Lauren really was able to give us some legal consultation about some of the work that we were doing with AccomoDine, because it related so deeply with safety for people. But another incredible thing that I found through the program was mentorship isn't just with the people we were assigned with to be our mentors. So throughout the program, we pitched our idea to Sheldon Levy, the CEO of Next Canada, and he actually put us in touch with Jane Marshall, who was the ex-VP of Loblaws. She was able to really help us with our research moving forward and our connections as well. And throughout the whole program, I've had mentorship moments with my peers, like my cohort sitting right here, people from Next Founders and Next AI. So I'm really thankful for that. I think that's maybe one of the biggest benefits or opportunities being a part of this cohort, is actually getting to meet everyone and having feedback from everyone.
Oh yeah, that's a great point that you bring up. And one other thing to mention is that for the Next 36ers, not only are they having the chance to live together in residence and kind of bond as a cohort in our new HQ space in Toronto, as part of the program, you're also provided with a co-working space. But that space is not only occupied by the Next 36 entrepreneurs, you guys also get to hang out with the Next Founders, which tend to be later stage founders whose ventures or companies have been around for a couple of years. They can demonstrate more traction, and they've had to overcome some of the hurdles that you guys are now looking towards or are coming up against during this program. So having those kind of other sort of de facto mentors who are just a few years ahead of you. And then the same goes for the Next AI program. More and more, I feel like the Next 36 Ventures, many of them have a sort of AI component. But regardless of kind of the technology platform or what you're working on, having those entrepreneurs who are in the space that can also advise you on, or just you can learn from their experiences, essentially. So I think that's also a big benefit, especially to having the co-working space. I want to talk a little bit about the founder development portion of the program. I think it's one of the things that makes the Next 36 program unique is that we have such a strong academic thrust to what we do. So we're not just focused on venture milestones and raising funding. We're also focused on how can we bring in some of the top experts to teach a sort of actionable business acumen and teach the entrepreneurs to think differently, think bigger about the problems that they're solving. And so there's more information available on the website as well around the different faculty and the courses that are taught as part of the program. But we bring in faculty from schools, top schools across North America, like MIT, Georgetown. We work with Rotman at U of T, McGill, and Harvard Business School. And so it's really having access to these leaders and academics and learning from them that really adds another layer, I think, to the program. And so I'd love to hear from you guys about any kind of particular class or professor that stuck out in your mind and what was the biggest takeaway there. I don't know if Mariam, did you want to start?
Sure. For myself, I think all of the classes were truly valuable. I think the reason for me the programming was really valuable is I come from an engineering background. And a lot of the classes, even the ones that are more technical, are about the economics of the tech, which was really, really interesting for me to understand the economics of AI, the economics of blockchain, economics even of different strategies to do with the business. One class that really stood out to me was Ajay Agrawal's class, which is the economics of AI. And I think one of the biggest learnings I took away from that class was how to think about technology and building technology in a way that is just a huge there's so many different aspects of building technology than just building it. So there's the economics, there's a human side, and then there's the team side of building a technology. And I think those were some of the biggest learnings that I learned in that class. were related to those things.
Awesome. Justin?
Yeah, to echo some of what Mariam said as well, I'm also from an engineering background, so a lot of all this, just in terms of the vocabulary that's used in these in the business world, was all new to me. But if I had to pick one class that really stood out, was Reza Sachu's class. He's one of the founders of the program, and the program is actually built out of this course that he used to teach at U of T. And so what's really special about his class, although we study case studies in these, we look at these various organizations and what they did well and what they where they kind of fell short or where they had failure. He really pushes you as an individual to step outside your comfort zone, and I think that's what a lot of us gain the most from his classes. Is really it's a stressful environment, but it's a positive stress. It's a way that makes you think about what you want to say really really well, and if he'll call you out if you say something that's not founded in truth, and he'll like keep digging and really make you get to the point and make you realize something about this case, or that you can learn from. So I think that was really helpful. And also what we can learn from these large organizations as well. He's very good at that, because we study cases like Amazon, for example. And it's like, what can we as new founders who are just like getting off the ground learn from that? And these key early decisions that he made that led to his success, and being able to realize those, that was like, for example, why he started with books. The questions like that, and being able to answer those, and realizing the strategies that he employed at a very early stage was extremely beneficial to think about for our businesses, and how can we get our foot in the door in some place very early on, just by making a key decision like books.
Yeah, so I come from a business background, so I thought, coming into the program, that it would be a bit of a repetition for me, but it's truly, truly not what you expect. The classroom experience here is so much more different than even a business classroom in your undergraduate career. It's so much more application-based, and you actually have real examples that you can relate to. For me, one class that really stood out was Professor Ganz. So his was an entrepreneurial strategy course, and I've never taken anything like that, but he focused on real examples of our own businesses, which was what was really cool, is you weren't just learning about case studies of other businesses, but you were treating your own business as a case study. And he paid attention to every part of your business, which I thought was so amazing, because in what world would you get, an hour one-on-one with a professor to just break down your entire business? So that was really beneficial, and I think that's truly unique compared to any other business course that I've taken.
That's amazing. And yeah, I think something else to note is just the caliber of the faculty, right? Like, we've had people like Professor Ramananda, who teaches the MBAs at Harvard Business School, come in and teach a class around entrepreneurial finance, which I've heard is also amazing. And we've had people like Mark Bush in the past, who teaches at Georgetown, all around globalization and how to think about your business from a global perspective. He also used to advise the Obama administration on global trade. And so having these people with both the academic background, but also the real world kind of industry expertise, I think brings that kind of extra thrust into the program. So I think we have an audience question coming in from Facebook, which is, how do you define entrepreneurship? I'd love to hear from you guys about, do you have any thoughts on defining entrepreneurship as a term, breaking it down, and maybe how your view of that has changed over the course of the program as well?
Yeah, so I think a lot of universities and specifically my university experience, entrepreneurship and innovation was talked about a lot. But what does that really mean? So to me, after going through the Next 36 experience, I think entrepreneurship is a mindset. So to me, it signifies being proactive, but it's very much rooted in humanity. And so when you're building a venture, if you're building a nonprofit, if you're just building a team that's solving a problem, you're looking to society for that problem. You're solving your own, or you're helping other people through building a solution. And I think, yeah, so having that entrepreneurial mindset means being proactive about changing something that will eventually kind of make its way back to grow society as a society, and grow our own humanity.
I'll steal Reza Sachu's definition of entrepreneurship here, and it's kind of like now ingrained in our brains after hearing it so many times. And his definition for entrepreneurship is the relentless pursuit of opportunity without regard for resources currently controlled, and that it pretty much encompasses the process that we've gone through, because especially without the resources currently controlled, is that you're tackling such enormous problems and such big issues, and you think, how can I I don't have the money, I don't have the skills, like how am I going to do this? And it's about continuously pursuing these opportunities, even though you may not have access to the team or the capital or the space or the network, and figuring out how to get it done, how to achieve that change, regardless of all these barriers that are in front of you. So and that's been particularly relevant to what we're doing, trying to create this this huge shift in how we operate public transit, how we move people around our cities. And we're still figuring out this, the resources currently controlled, because we're certainly, like any startup, low on resources, but it's the ability to keep forging ahead, because you're passionate about having a change and doing something that's different as well. I don't know if you want to add to it.
You guys pretty much covered everything. Yeah, I think just adding on to everyone, it's a combination of having that mindset and then being able to pursue an opportunity. And I think, when we talk about entrepreneurship, you think automatically, okay, this has to be someone who creates a business, but I don't necessarily think that's true. I think entrepreneurship is a skill set that should be taught to everybody. It doesn't matter what industry, what age, what background you have. It's just a toolkit of skills that everyone should have in order to be successful in whatever industry they're in.
And I think that's a great segue into just talking about, through the application process, what types of people we are looking for. And I think it does boil down to the mindset. So regardless of what your experience has been on campus or outside of campus, and maybe you're thinking, okay, I haven't founded a startup before, should I still be applying into the Next 36 program? We are really looking for people who have that mindset and can demonstrate that through whatever sort of story or track record that they have. And so that can mean things like definitely starting a startup during your academic career. That can also mean things like maybe you founded a club on your campus. Maybe you've worked or held internships or co-op positions and start inside of larger organizations, and you've been entrepreneurial by starting up new initiatives there. Maybe you have won hackathons or participated in startup weekends in the past, and you've been through that experience of uncovering a large problem and thinking about a way to solve that problem. And so there are kind of an infinite number of stories and perspectives that we see through the application process. But at the end of the day, I think it really does boil down to kind of that mindset that can be applied to everything from business to excelling in other areas like music or competitions, sports competitions, what have you. So any way that you can really demonstrate that to us through your application, definitely go to the length to go into detail and tell us about those times when you've come up against a challenge or a barrier or roadblock and you've had the resilience, although maybe not the resources to see it through. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We'll also ask questions on the application around GPA is one data point that we ask for, and a question we get a lot is, do I need a super high GPA to make it into the program? And for us, that's really just a data point that we collect that sometimes can mean that you have the kind of academic horsepower and the smarts to participate in the academic portion of the program. Alternatively, sometimes we have people who apply and get into the program with a lower GPA because they were spending their time, doing something really cool outside of class, whether that's working on your startup or being the Enactus president or whatever. And so there's all sorts of reasons why that can fluctuate, but it's just one thing that we ask for and definitely not the determining factor. So yes. Another thing that we like to see is ways that you can talk about failures that you've had in the past, how you've embraced that, how you've pushed through it, and really what you learned from it and how you applied that to any future endeavors that you did have. And so I want to turn it over again to you guys just about the application, and if you can talk a bit about what the application process was like for you. Was there anything you wished you knew before that you know now about the program going into it? And yeah, what was that process like for you, and how can people who are looking to apply this year create a stronger application?
I think one thing that I really want to stress is how important emotional intelligence and saying your whys in your process and in your application is. I think throughout the application process, it was really clear that, even during selection weekend, it was really clear that Next Canada was looking for people who knew their whys, who were really deep-rooted in their why, so that they have really a foundation of emotional intelligence that they could draw from throughout the program and throughout the hardships of entrepreneurship. And yeah, I think it's not as stressed out in a lot of other accelerators maybe, or in a lot of our university experience, but it is something that I think is truly important in pursuing entrepreneurship and this path, because you really do need to draw from something that's a really solid foundation. And so in the application process, I would kind of stress that just don't be afraid to kind of show more of your personality versus just talking about your achievements or whatever else throughout your university or outside experience.
Yeah, with regard to the application, I would say definitely it's important to stress how you identified a problem, you solved it, and you overcame barriers, and whether that would be like a campus activity or a business. So instead of just listing off all of your accomplishments and achievements, really, I would suggest that like quality is better than quantity, and focus on one specific thing that you did where you were able to, identify a problem in your community, in your school, in your within the company that you're working for. Well, certainly that's what worked for me, and that's the advice that I was given too. So that I was given. And in terms of one thing that one thing that I wish I would have known before.
Yeah, going into the application process, if there was anything you wish you knew about the program.
About the program, I would, I think, like to echo what Mariam said about the why, because things are going to get pretty rough at some points, just in terms of, being able to manage everything that's going on. It's obviously a stressful process, but also I didn't realize how difficult the team formation was going to be. I thought that would be a much easier process and a much easier thing to manage, but that's definitely finding someone that's aligned with your values, that complements your skill sets, is not an easy task to do. So that was actually one of the toughest parts for me for the program. It was that very beginning point, was trying to find that person that I wanted to tackle some big problem with. And for the application and the interviews as well, one of the things that like they're able to cut through the no, I can't say they're able to be sincere is what I'm saying, is that if you're going in there and giving answers that you think they want to hear, if you're putting answers on the paper that you think Next wants to hear, they're able to see through that pretty easily, and they've gone through thousands of applications, and they know which people are really in it because it's something that they're passionate about, and they would be entrepreneurs regardless of this program or not, and those that are just kind of spewing out the stuff that they think sounds good. So so be yourself, be honest, and that's pretty, yeah, that's I think where what the best strategy is, if I had to give one.
That's great. Yeah, no textbook interview answers, I guess. I think the most important thing is just showcasing what you're passionate about. For me, I was really passionate about social entrepreneurship. So that was something that I made sure that I integrated into my interview answers. But I'm also passionate about other things like food and travel. So don't be afraid to just be yourself and show your personality, not just in your business sense, but as a whole. And actually, I didn't know about the application process until just 2 weeks before it was due. So it wasn't something that I had over prepared for, which I think is also key. You don't want to over prepare and make it seem like you're reciting answers. You want to be as genuine as possible and just be yourself. And some of the questions, I don't know if we can reveal any example questions, but some of the questions are pretty out there, and they require you to be more creative, and they're not your typical interview questions. So
yeah, I think without kind of saying what those questions are, and we do change them up from year to year, but the way that we'll ask the questions is really to get to the root of the thought process, less about listing off kind of those accolades and accomplishments, and more about what is your approach to problem solving, to thinking creatively, and try to get to the root of that and uncover that through that process. A few other notes on when you're thinking about applying, aside from all of that really, really great advice, I think the being genuine piece is really key, showing other parts of your personality. We also encourage everyone to apply early. So our selection committee is kind of looking at applications on a rolling basis, and so we definitely love to see people apply earlier into the program. If you do have questions, feel free to reach out to a member of our team. You can always reach us over social media or through info@nextcanada.com. I would also encourage people to keep an eye out on our website for upcoming national campus tour dates. Those are fantastic events to come out to. I don't know if any of you had made it to a campus tour event in the fall. I think, yeah, maybe the Big Gill one. Yep. And so that's a great way to come out and hear from our team, as well as meet alumni, usually affiliated with the school that we're visiting, and really just pick their brain about the process and their experience as well. In line with what you guys are saying, I would say if you can find a way to kind of broaden your definition of entrepreneurship on your application. So remember that doesn't mean that you need to have started a business before, but more about showing how you've applied that mindset in other aspects of your life. Show ways or times that you've built something from scratch when you've seen a problem and tried to identify a solution. And also don't shy away from talking about your failures. We kind of, we talk about failure a lot through the program, and ways that you can learn that you can use failure as a way to learn more about yourself and avoid future mistakes. So yeah, I would say don't shy away from that. Was there anything? Yeah, of course.
If I could add one more thing as well, in alignment with what you were saying, at selection weekend, one thing I remember very, very clearly that Reza had mentioned was you get the most out of this program if you're open and you're vulnerable. And that's something that truly, if you embrace that advice, you do get the most out of the program, because then you advance your own personal development as well as your business development. And you're creating much, much deeper relationships with your cohort and your community through that. And so talking about your failure is one data point, or one point in talking about or showing that you could be vulnerable and you're human, but that you could develop and progress beyond just that, and not allow that to define you as a person.
Amazing. Do you guys think, was there anything specific that you included in your application, or one way that you tried to make yourself stand out at all through the application process? Was there anything that stood out for you guys?
I think it was just in all the questions really incorporate in multiple scenarios, how I went through that process of identifying a problem, either a personal problem or a problem in my community or school, and then spending a lot of time developing it, and then the results, like what was the outcome. So going through that over like continuously in all these different scenarios with all these different obstacles that that I was facing, there's nothing crazy in my background. Like some of the people in this program come in with these very very impressive backgrounds of things that they've done, and so, but I felt like I didn't have that. But what I had was many situations where I had shown this entrepreneurial initiative, and I think that that's what came through in my application, and what helped me progress through the selection process.
That's a great point.
I think for me, I opted to kind of tell a story in my application process. And the reason I opted for that is I felt like that was the most powerful way in order to showcase my whys behind my actions. And I think, again, I included a lot of whys in my application process to kind of showcase that mindset, because I had done my research on Next Canada, and I knew that that Next Canada was looking for mindset, not necessarily achievements. And so I think that's one thing that I need to feel the need to stress is really be sure of your why, and be sure to communicate your why.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing as well, is that it wasn't just random problems I had identified. It was things that I was deeply passionate about, and you have to let that come through in some way. And on paper and in the video, sometimes it's difficult to do, but just to make sure that you're showing that you do have deep passions and interests that that you've worked on or worked in.
Amazing. Yeah, I think so. And then leading from that, I'm curious to hear as well how you guys feel that your trajectory's changed. So if you could, go back 8 months ago where you were before the program to today, whether it's a change in mindset or your business, or how has your trajectory changed? Maybe if Nuha wants to start.
So I think for me, I was transitioning from being a full-time student to a full-time entrepreneur, which is really scary if you think about it, because you're used to this comfort zone of being a student and, going to class and then working on your business part-time or working on various different extracurriculars. But as soon as that ends, things become real and you don't know where to start. So I feel like for me, it was really great having a platform and a structure to the next 4 months after I graduated, where I was able to really work on my business full time with the resources and the support that I needed, and then actual objectives that I needed to meet. So it kept me on track. It made sure I didn't, steer away from what I really wanted to do. And in terms of my business was able to accelerate because of that reason. And I think it comes down to your focus as an entrepreneur, which Next gives you. So that was my biggest takeaway from the program.
Yeah, so I think throughout the program, again, as Nuha had mentioned, a lot of us are transitioning from being full-time students to kind of being entrepreneurs on a more full-time basis. And that's definitely a scary leap or jump, but mostly it's really scary because you have to make a lot of the decisions on your own or with your team. And so you need to have a lot of trust and a really strong foundation of being your own best friend and being best friends with people on your team, and kind of building that community of people that you can trust and you can lean back on and build each other up. And that's a really hard thing to do. So I think Next allows you to kind of have that community and to introduce you to those people in order to build that community. But Ajay Agrawal said, so Professor Agrawal said something really, I think it's going to stay with me forever, is you don't necessarily need to be working on your own venture moving forward. One of the biggest kind of positives about working on your own startup, even if it does fail, is you get to make a lot of decisions. So decision making becomes easier in the future. But again, if you're working in a capacity where you're not working on your own startup, you got to make sure that you have that kind of mentorship and community in order to progress yourself as a person and develop and invest in yourself after your university degree is over. So we invest in ourselves a lot during university, and sometimes when university is over, we kind of start harvesting the investment instead of continuing to invest in myself. And so that's moving forward, I actually changed my trajectory from going to work full-time in a big organization to staying in Toronto and actually working in the entrepreneurial community here and building my community further.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think for me as well, was just realizing is that being able to just go with the flow in some respect. I feel like within school, a lot of us are on these very straight paths without much kind of deviation, and then we get to this and we think that entrepreneurship is, you know, this like set of steps as well, but it's actually like this zigzaggy path to get to where you want to be. And so I guess there were some assumptions that I had about where I would be at the end of the program for a business, and realizing that like throughout that wasn't going to happen, that you know, we ran into this hurdle and we ran into this obstacle, and oh, we can't do this now, and oh, this is going to take a few more months than we expected. And then being able to just continuously adapt and be flexible and open to all of these changes is something that you like. Having a startup is not stable. It's quite like chaotic almost, but it's being able to remain centered throughout this, and realizing that that even though it may take longer or you may take a different path, that if you know your why and you know like the end goal or the big picture, then that's what counts a lot more than this exact where you are at this exact moment.
Embracing the chaos for
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly,
Yeah, great. And so we have a couple of minutes left, so I just wanted to hear from you guys. What is one piece of kind of tangible advice you would give to someone who is thinking about applying to the program, is maybe hesitating or not sure if they're a good fit? What was one piece of advice that you'd have for them?
Talk to everyone. Reach out to the alumni of the program. Reach out to people you think are have that entrepreneurial mindset. Talk to your family. Most importantly, reflect on why you would even want to be applying to the program, because it's a pretty difficult program in terms of you growing as a person. It's uncomfortable. And so really think about, is this the best way for you to be growing in the way that you want to? And if it is, then really, really put in the effort in uncovering the whys. And yeah, so I would just say talk to everyone until you figure out if your why and why what you want to get the most out of the program as well.
That's great. I'll just add, so over the course of the fall, as we're doing national campus tour events, there are plenty of opportunities to, again, meet with alumni. If you're not able to make it out to one of those events, you're always able to reach out to our team, and our team is happy to try and connect you with some alumni of the program to chat with over the phone or via email, in case you do have any kind of specific questions. So we can also help facilitate that.
For me, the one piece of advice would be, like, why entrepreneurship? Like, I know I kind of repeating the same sort of thing, but if you weren't to get into the program, think about what you would be doing, and that I think or what you would want to be doing. And that is a question you'll probably have to answer in the interviews, but it's also a good thing to think about even before you're applying, and to think about, what do I want to get out of this period of my life after I graduate? What do I want to be doing? And realizing as well that this is kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. There's some people who got into the program who decided to take that a good paying job after they graduate, and that's fine if that's what makes sense for them. But it's thinking about, you know, this is such a unique chance to be in this environment right after graduation, whereas you could get potentially a job at any point in the future. So thinking about what you would do if it weren't for the program, I think could answer a lot about if this is the right program for you and if entrepreneurship is right for you. So.
Yeah, just to echo what you guys are saying, for me, an alumni actually had the biggest impact on me applying to this program. So it was actually her who I met with, who told me about the program, and that's how I ended up applying. So I think just having conversations with people who have gone through the program, and you'll notice that everybody is so different. Like some people end up going back to work or starting their business or becoming an entrepreneur, which is all amazing. And then it helps you understand what you're going into the program for. So if it's to go in just to get an experience of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, then that's great. But if it's to actually build your business, then that's also amazing. So I think just knowing exactly what you want and being committed to the program is really important, because you are going to have to make a sacrifice, whether it be you giving up a full-time job or giving up, travel or vacation plans. It is going to be a sacrifice. So being willing to do that is also really important.
Amazing. Thank you. So I believe we are just about at the end of our time here. So we're going to wrap up. So thanks to everyone for tuning in today. If you are considering applying to the program, just a reminder that the application deadline this year is October 16th. And so you have, some time. Over the course of the next 6 weeks, we'll be hosting events across Canada as part of our national campus tour. So be sure to keep an eye on our website, nextcanada.com, for events that are happening in your location. If we didn't get to your question today, I'm sorry. We will be able to still answer those over Facebook or via Twitter. Again, our handle is @Next36, and you can use the hashtag N36apply. And other than that, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks to our friends at NewScreen for helping us produce the 2019 application webinar. And we look forward to seeing you at events this fall and your application as well.